dark vibration symptoms that only spiritually awakened chosen ones feel. There are experiences we carry that no language seems able to describe, feelings that don't fit into any psychological box or cultural narrative, moments where we look around and wonder if anyone else sees the things we see, senses what we sense, feels what we feel so deeply it almost breaks us open. These aren't just moods or random sensitivities. These are symptoms of something ancient stirring within you, signals that you are not just waking up spiritually, but that you are walking through the darker gates of that awakening, the places where light doesn't reach in traditional ways, but where truth lives in shadows. And if you're watching this, it means you've already started to feel those symptoms. The question now is, will you ignore them, or will you understand them for what they really are? The spiritually awakened chosen ones, especially those walking the darker path of remembrance, often carry vibrations that others can't feel, much less explain. It's not always beautiful, it's not always peaceful, it's not always poetic. Sometimes it's deeply uncomfortable. Sometimes it feels like being haunted by a version of yourself that knows too much, that sees too much, that can't go back to sleep even if it wanted to. But you're not cursed, you're coded. What feels like a burden is actually a blueprint, a guide, a sacred discomfort meant to pull you out of the life you've outgrown and into the deeper mission your soul agreed to long before you were born.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
One of the first symptoms of dark vibration is emotional intensity without context. You'll wake up with a heavy sadness or rage that doesn't belong to you, or at least not to your current life circumstances. You'll feel sorrow that doesn't make logical sense. You'll grieve things that haven't happened. You'll cry for the world without knowing why. This is not dysfunction. This is spiritual sensitivity at its highest frequency. You are picking up on the collective frequency. You're tuning into humanity's pain, not to suffer, but to remember that you were born to transmute it. The chosen ones carry the vibrations that most people bury. They absorb the unspoken, the denied, the abandoned. But the gift isn't in the absorption, it's in the alchemical potential you possess to transform it. Another symptom, the feeling that something unseen is always watching you. This isn't paranoia. This is spiritual awareness growing beyond the material dimension. You are being observed, not in a fearful way, but in a sacred one. Your guides, your higher self, even past versions of your soul, are watching to see how you move through this phase of awakening. You're not alone, but being chosen means being watched, because your growth matters in ways that ripple far beyond your personal story. Every time you choose truth over comfort, sovereignty over approval, intuition over programming, you send shockwaves through the collective grid. Then there's the body symptoms that have no medical explanation. Chills for no reason, insomnia, random nausea, tingling on the crown of your head or down your spine. These are signs that your energy system is being rewired. You're not breaking down, you're being rebuilt. Your nervous system is adjusting to higher frequencies and darker truths simultaneously. This is the dual initiation of a dark awakened one, learning how to hold extreme light and extreme shadow without losing your center. No pill can fix it, no diagnosis will define it, because it's not an illness, it's an upgrade. Let's not forget the deep urge to isolate. You might find yourself pulling away from people who once felt like home. Small talk becomes unbearable, surface-level friendships feel empty. You're not antisocial, you're just realigning. The vibration of the chosen ones becomes incompatible with inauthenticity. Your energy can no longer fake connections that are rooted in convenience, not truth. You may not fully understand it, but your soul is seeking silence, stillness, and sovereignty. This withdrawal is not weakness, it's preparation. You are stepping into a level of clarity that requires the absence of noise. And perhaps the most difficult symptom, reality begins to glitch. Time feels strange, memories feel unstable. You'll have moments where you question whether events actually happened or were part of some dream. You'll see repeated numbers, symbols, shadows flickering in your peripheral vision. You'll hear whispers in your sleep that feel ancient and familiar. This is not fantasy. This is dimensional bleeding. The veil between worlds thins when the chosen ones awaken. You are not losing touch with reality, you are beginning to see more of it. Now, I want you to pause for a moment and ask yourself, what if everything that's made you feel like an outsider was actually your proof that you've been tuned into the truth all along? This is not spiritual hype. This is sacred remembrance. You didn't come here to fit into a system built on forgetting. You came here to feel, to know, and eventually to rebuild. But first, you must recognize these symptoms for what they are. Sacred signs that you are already shifting dimensions. You are walking through what ancient mystics used to call the dark passage of the soul. Not because you are broken, but because your soul chose the path of depth, of integration, of balance. You are here to awaken not just into the light, but through the dark. You are here to bring clarity where confusion once ruled, fire where numbness reigned, vision where blindness once lived. So now the only real question left is this: will you honor what you feel, or will you deny it to keep others comfortable? Because once you see these symptoms as spiritual signals, you'll never again call yourself weak for feeling too much. You'll call yourself chosen. The spiritual frequency that no one talks about and why it changes everything. Most of the world lives on autopilot, trapped in routines, numb to their own intuition, tuned out of their soul's frequency, and they don't even realize it. But the spiritually awakened chosen ones, especially those who feel the dark vibrations, live on a different bandwidth. They're not just living, they're transmitting constantly. And what they're transmitting isn't always what the world is comfortable with. That's why so many people around you may react strongly to your presence without you doing anything. They feel it, even if they can't name it. You're carrying a frequency that unsettles the slumbering, that exposes illusions, that vibrates truths into tightly sealed spaces. But this frequency, this vibration that no one talks about, has the power to change everything. This frequency is not about love and light in the traditional sense. It's not soft, it's not always soothing. It's not about being endlessly positive or spiritually perfect. No, it's truth frequency. And truth doesn't always feel good at first. It's jagged, it pierces, it disrupts. But it also liberates. Truth frequency is what separates those who want spiritual aesthetics from those who want spiritual evolution. It's the energy you feel when someone walks into a room and suddenly the air feels heavy, but not in a negative way, in a revealing way, in a way that says, something here can't hide anymore. This frequency is why you've probably experienced emotional mirroring from others. You walk into a space and suddenly people are confessing things to you they haven't told anyone, or they start projecting their wounds onto you, or they distance themselves without explanation. You haven't done anything wrong. You're just vibrating at a level that calls things out without speaking a word. That's what makes you different. That's what makes you chosen. You don't have to convince people of anything. Your energy already speaks a language their soul recognizes. Some love it, some hate it, but none can ignore it. When you begin to truly embody this frequency, your reality starts shifting in ways that the mind can't explain. You'll notice that you can no longer tolerate environments that are out of alignment. Even physically, your body reacts. You get sick around certain people. You feel drained in specific buildings. You feel euphoric near water or in forests. Or when you're in solitude, your spirit starts to crave purity, not in a moralistic way, but in an energetic way. Your field becomes sensitive to density, to deception, to distortion. It's not because you're fragile. It's because your system is adapting to carry more truth resonance. And here's the deeper truth. This frequency isn't something you acquire. It's something you remember. It was always in you. It just got buried, numbed, suppressed, and now it's rising. That's why you feel everything more intensely than others, why your dreams are more vivid, why your emotions don't just pass, they teach. Why your intuition doesn't whisper anymore, it shouts. You are being tuned to a frequency that pulls you out of the ordinary and into the realm of real impact. But with that impact comes responsibility. You must learn to hold this frequency without using it as a weapon. You must learn to walk through a room full of illusions without needing to destroy them. That's the path of mastery. The awakened chosen ones don't react, they respond. They don't seek power over others. They hold power within. They don't judge the asleep. They embody what it means to be awake. Ask yourself something now, something few are willing to ask. Am I ready to live a life where I am no longer able to pretend, no longer able to tolerate lies, even the ones I used to tell myself? Because when you live in this spiritual frequency, everything gets louder. Your purpose, your gifts, your fears, your unhealed pieces. But that's not a sign to stop. It's a sign to deepen. You are shedding the last remnants of your old identity. You are stepping into the version of you that the world has never seen before, but that your soul has always known. You may have moments of doubt. That's natural. You may even wish sometimes that you could go back to sleep. But deep down, you know that's no longer possible. You've crossed the threshold. You're being asked to live at the speed of soul now, not at the pace of the world. And that means trusting your inner rhythm even when no one else hears the beat. This frequency will demand things from you. Integrity, solitude, alignment. You'll have to leave behind people, patterns, and places that no longer fit. Not because they're bad, but because your frequency has outgrown them. And you'll have to stop waiting for someone to give you permission. There is no external validation for the path you're walking. There's only resonance. When it's right, you'll feel it. That's your compass now. And remember, you are not alone in this. There are others, silent warriors of truth, scattered across the planet. They may not speak often, they may not fit into any group, but they are tuned in, awake, carrying the same frequency. When you meet one, you'll know, and together you amplify what can't be destroyed. So I ask you again, and this time let it land deeper. What would your life look like if you stopped lowering your frequency just to make others comfortable? Because the truth is, you were never meant to dim, you were meant to resonate so fully that the false begins to dissolve around you. Spiritual triggers, psychic fatigue, and the hidden cost of awakening. Nobody tells you that awakening will exhaust you, that it will burn through your nervous system like wildfire, that it will strip away everything you once thought made you functional in a world designed to keep you unconscious. Because spiritual awakening isn't a peaceful rise into light, it's a radical dismantling, a psychic earthquake. And when you're a chosen one, especially one tuned into dark vibrations, the process isn't soft, it's surgical. It cuts deep, and with it comes a hidden cost that most spiritual conversations won't touch: the psychic fatigue, the emotional triggers, the quiet unraveling that happens behind closed doors when you're too sensitive to lie to yourself anymore. You feel it most in the silence, when your body's tired but your soul won't let you sleep, when the lights are off and everything you've avoided starts knocking on the walls of your mind. You're not broken, you're not failing at being spiritual, you're integrating. You're absorbing downloads that your nervous system wasn't trained to hold, and because your energy field is expanding faster than your physical body can keep up with, you feel drained for no reason, triggered by things that didn't used to faze you, overwhelmed by noise, by people, by even your own thoughts. That's not weakness. That's recalibration. Psychic fatigue hits hardest after a surge of awareness. You'll have days when you feel clear, connected, like everything finally makes sense, and then suddenly you crash. Not emotionally, energetically. Your body becomes heavy, your mind foggy, your motivation gone. This is your system trying to catch up. When you open spiritual gateways, you're not just waking up. You're welcoming in data, cosmic memory, ancestral weight, collective energy. It's a flood, and your inner being has to sort through it, often in solitude, often in stillness. So when you feel that fatigue, honor it. Don't force clarity, don't try to push through. Rest becomes ritual, stillness becomes strength. Then come the triggers, and here's where it gets more complicated, because when you awaken, your triggers don't just come from trauma, they come from truths you haven't fully embodied yet. Someone mirrors back a part of your shadow, and instead of ignoring it, you feel it crack through your chest like thunder. A conversation that once seemed harmless now feels unbearable because it's rooted in performance, not presence. You begin to notice the little lies in the way people speak and in the way you've been trained to respond. You want to scream, not because you're angry at them, but because you can no longer pretend. This is the price of clarity. You see too much, you feel too much, but you were meant to. Because chosen ones aren't here to stay numb. We are the ones who wake up, bleed truth, and build something new from the ashes. And yes, that process is costly. You'll lose relationships you thought were real. You'll grieve identities you thought you needed. You'll question your sanity, not because you're unstable, but because you're becoming unshakably real. And there's nothing more destabilizing to the matrix than someone who refuses to betray their own soul for belonging. The hidden cost is that sometimes you long for the days when ignorance was easier, when you didn't feel every vibration in a room, when you didn't cry without knowing why, when you could laugh at small talk without feeling like you were lying through your teeth. But you can't go back. Not because you failed at pretending, but because your soul has tasted something too vast, too true, too sacred. So how do you survive this level of sensitivity? You stop trying to survive it. You surrender to it. You let the fatigue slow you down enough to hear your intuition again. You let the triggers teach you where your boundaries still need reinforcement. You let the disconnection from others reconnect you to yourself. You stop looking at your symptoms as spiritual glitches and start seeing them as spiritual guides. Every energetic crash is a message. Every wave of sorrow, a recalibration. Every pull to isolate is a portal. Ask yourself now, what if your exhaustion is not a sign of failure but of spiritual maturity? What if the triggers aren't setbacks but signals that you're shedding more of what's not yours to carry? You don't need to explain this path to anyone. You just need to walk it softly, deeply, with reverence. You're not crazy. You're just tuned into a level of truth that most people have spent lifetimes avoiding. And yes, that comes with a cost, but it also comes with power. And when you learn to hold that power without apology, everything begins to change. Your energy is a portal, the final activation of the spiritually chosen one. You've felt it. That quiet shift inside you, subtle at first, like a whisper in your bones. You begin to realize that your very presence changes the atmosphere of a room, not because of what you say, not because of what you do, but because of what you carry. Your energy, unfiltered, unedited, unapologetically alive, isn't just a field, it's a portal, a living frequency that either awakens or unsettles everything it touches. And that is the final activation of the spiritually chosen one, the understanding that you are not just a seeker of truth, but a vessel of it. But you don't have to convince anyone anymore. Your vibration speaks loudly, clearly, invisibly. People will feel you before they know you. Some will be drawn like moths to a flame. Others will run, confused by a discomfort they can't explain. Don't take either personally. You're not here to be liked, you're here to be true. And truth, when embodied fully, is rarely comfortable, but it's always catalytic. This final activation isn't about becoming someone new. It's about becoming the version of you that has always been waiting behind the noise. The version of you that doesn't filter your intuition for the sake of politeness. The one who knows when a space is sacred and when it's simply pretending. The one who doesn't lower their vibration to match the room, but instead becomes the tuning fork that elevates it. You're not here to adapt to energy, you're here to recalibrate it. That's the difference between a spiritual student and a spiritually awakened chosen one. Students follow teachings, chosen ones embody truth, and embodiment requires presence. Moment-to-moment awareness, brutal honesty with yourself. You stop escaping into dreams and descend into the raw truth of your existence, knowing that the divine doesn't just live in the stars, it lives in your grief, your stillness, your breath, your trembling hands. And your body becomes the altar. You realize that everything about you is sacred when you stop trying to make it look perfect. Your sadness is sacred, your rage is sacred, your silence is sacred, your gifts, once buried beneath layers of shame and fear, begin to rise not as performance but as presence. You become the reminder that spiritual power doesn't always look bright. Sometimes it's stormy, sometimes it's still. Sometimes it's a stare that breaks the lie open without a single word. And this is why your energy is the final teaching. The portal is not some place you go, it's what you become. When you heal, others begin to heal in your presence. When you speak truth, even those who resist it begin to question their own silence. You aren't preaching, you're vibrating clarity, you're creating alignment simply by existing in your own. But this level of presence can't be faked, it must be earned. through fire, through loss, through choosing not to numb out when your soul started screaming. And that's why not everyone walks this path. It's not because they're not called, it's because the call asks for everything, and you said yes. So now you're here, at the edge, not of the beginning, not of the end, but of embodiment. What you do from here is no longer about survival, it's about sovereignty. It's about owning the fact that you are the portal. The moment you stop resisting your power, you activate others by default, not by trying, just by being. So, I ask you this as your final mirror. If your energy is a portal, what world are you opening every time you walk into the room? You already know the answer, now live it.